Oh, I don't want to make this video, but I made an agreement, and I told Big G that, you know, let me go for a walk. Let me walk it out. Let me build up the courage, a little bit of momentum, you know, to help me get this out. And let me flip it for you. And this is where my walk ended. So when I take one of these walks like this, the corner of Skyline and Park Point. So when I take one of these walks like this, I got this. I got my my Ranger Rosary. That's something I came up with based on two aspects of my life, right? That, you know, are part of me now. You know, the Ranger beads in the Army were all about keeping track of how hydrated you were based on a pace count. Every quarter mile or so, you needed to stop and drink water, count a bead. And then growing up Catholic, real young, before I left, you know, that particular institution behind, before I was even 13 or 14. But growing up, they had the rosary, right? So I never appreciated the penances themselves, but I appreciated the idea of penance. Okay, I appreciated the idea of, like, meditating on a lesson. I appreciated the idea of you know, flogging your inner child, or whatever the fuck. Like, my now grown up self understands, you know, the whole spare the rod, spoil the child ideology and whatnot. Like, and I understand it in a much deeper way than, like, my grandma did, you know. So, you know, who's the one who wielded it against us. But anyways, that's not the point. I'm gonna just set y'all up here. Let's not point you into the sunshine, because I'm gonna pace around. Y'all should be able to hear me though. We got the water tower. Got the water tower behind us. Sorry for the spitting noises right in the microphone. Apologies for that. But no, so today's video is super bittersweet. I don't want to make this fucking video, but somebody out there might learn from me. Somebody out there might learn from it. Sometimes in stewardship, sometimes you lose, bro. Sometimes you do everything right, and you still fucking lose. So, y'all know the difference between an idea and an ideal? This is a man in the arena type of ideology, right? This is a man in the arena type of idealism. So the difference between an idea and an ideal is the ability to take an L. If you can't take an L, then your idea has no legs to stand on that you would defend, right? Like, that's so this stewardship story, taking L's gracefully, because that's another piece of wisdom to extract from all this, right? Is that you need to learn how to take an L, just like you need to learn how to take a compliment. Because, like, I know how to take an ass whooping. Taking an L is nothing new to me. In my life, I had to learn how to take a compliment first in life, early in life. That was one of my co-massage therapists. You know, she took me aside one time. Somebody just cast off some wire cutters. There's just wire cutters out here. Anyways, she took me aside one time and she was like, "Joseph, the next time I fucking compliment you, you say, 'Thank you, ma'am.' That's it. Shut your fucking mouth. Take the goddamn compliment. Move the fuck on with your day." If others are complimenting you, that's praise. And if you are worthy of praise, you need to be worth accepting that praise. And that changed my life, man. That was huge. God bless women, right? They're fucking better at everything than us except for being strong. That's literally the only thing we beat them at, being fucking strong. Because they're strong in every other way, stronger than every other way than us. But yeah, so, you know, now, the reason I'm out here and I'm a bit of a nervous wreck around the idea of taking L's is because this one's still super fucking fresh. This one's still super fucking fresh. Now, the story I'm going to tell to kind of hopefully exemplify how to do this is a culmination of all the L's I've taken thus far on the fucking farm, because wasn't my first, won't be my last, right? So, grace is the ability to stumble, catch yourself, and keep moving so stylishly that other people just think you were playing hopscotch, being playful or some shit, you know? There's this joke in the music world about jazz musicians have played music for so long they can make a mistake look intentional. So like that would be, you know, synonymous to the faith that the grace that I'm talking about. So you know, just kind of arm yourself for that as I go through the rest of this, because like, fuck, man, taking an L's not fun, bro. I hate this shit. This has been a rough fucking week. You know, I mentioned this in one of the shorts, but we did Leno High School powerlifting meet, and I fucked up, bro. It wasn't like a big fuck up, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so like any fuck up is a fuck up to me, bro. I'm gonna be hypercritical on myself. And then again on fucking Saturday, I actually fucked up twice on that, because I said Andrew Rawlings in the video. I don't know why the fuck, like, that just shows how not recovered I'm been this powerlifting season. Because I meant Andrew Billings. Andrew fucking Rawlings. Isn't he the guy from fucking Black Flag? Or now I'm stupid in two pop cultures. But anyways, yeah, I fucked up. I called it the Andrew Rawlings instead of the Andrew Billings. And then I misread a loading chart. And misreading that loading chart caused me to misload 3 lifters. 3 lifters got relifts. 3 relifts snowballed into our 2 flights lasting as long as 3 flights. And then my platform ended up being half an hour behind. You know? So like, I've been fucking accumulating L's this week. It's fucking rough. But I take a deep breath. I go for a walk when we get home, and I've handled all my other shit. And I've handled my other responsibilities within the house and the farm and etc. Clear my head, go for a walk, etc. And I try to force myself to swallow that pill. You know, my wife got sick this week. First time in 7 years. She had to dig in the back of our fucking cough syrup cupboard and find the fucking Manuka honey something else. Raw cough fucking nonsense shit. And you know, she had to, point I'm trying to make is she had to take bitter medicine. You know, she had to physically imbibe bitter medicine. And so, like, maybe that's the theme this week, you know? Joe had to take some bitter fucking medicine. I was getting high on the hog, fucking hadn't fucked up in almost 4 years, you know? Hadn't had a farm fuck up in 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years. It's been a minute. I don't exactly track farm fuck-ups with the same intensity that I've tracked fucking powerlifting, because, you know, powerlifting's only 2 months out of the year, so it's a much more concentrated objective point, data point for me to fucking analyze. You know, farm's always going, and I never get a fucking vacation from it, so, you know, you can't really after action review something as clearly when you don't get a break from that thing. Retrospection requires a small aspect of separation, right? You have to separate from that thing, whether that's like, right, like, because like sometimes you just got to think about a problem. Sometimes the best way to think about that problem is to write it down on paper, get it outside of you to create that separation between you and the problem, right? So same kind of thing. So a few years ago, this was my first big L. Oh, you know what, actually, I'm kind of misconfusing those two. Those were the same year. Fuck me. I hadn't thought about that. Those were the same year. So, a few years ago, I got the goats. I kind of told this story in the Gokashi 6'9" stewardship story. But I got two goats. And his brother William was not as social of a goat and was a little more free thinker and had gotten out and had eaten some Johnson grass right after a freeze. And he ended up educating me on what Johnson grass was, and he fucking, he died, and I lost that stock, and that was impactful, man. He was also my favorite between him and Gokashi. He was my favorite goat between the two of them, and I lost that goat, so that was fucking big sad then too. I think I cried about it. I know for a fact I cried about the next one, which didn't make no fucking sense either, because this wasn't even my goat. So my other neighbor, my other fucking, bless his heart neighbor, he's supposedly a goat man. Grew up in Montana, right? Fucking grew up on a fucking bison and buffalo are the same thing, Joseph. Whatever. Grew up on a fucking buffalo, cow, sheep, goat ranch. One of them families that was early into the rotational grazing scene. They used to move the cows over here and put the goats on it behind them, and bring the sheep in behind that, and then let it rest for 3 fucking years. They got 17 fucking paddocks that they can rotate through. They got that kind of freedom. So, supposedly he knows goats, right? But really all it is like a fucking piece of land out in the country where he can put his fucking semi-illegal fucking junkyard, store all his Mustangs and his Volkswagens and his fucking food trucks that someday I'm gonna fix it up and I'm gonna sell whatever the fuck at the food truck lot, like whatever. So a few years ago, he had this group of goats. He keeps enough goats on to get an ag exemption for his land. And he had this one group of goats with, I think this was 2 bucks ago. He had 2 goat bucks ago. And I really liked this pack of goats. It was before I was getting into Nigis, or about the same time I was getting into Nigis, I guess. It was when I ended up with Nigis, but hadn't had a plan for them yet. I was still looking at boar goats as my goat source. And my neighbor and that's what my neighbor's got, is boar goats. And he had a fun little blend of some unregistered boar goats, and he ended up with a tri-stripe, black, white, brown, tri-stripe goat buck that we nicknamed him Ridge, because it's like that's the tri-stripe ran down his forehead, along his back like racing stripes, gave him a ridge, like a mountain ridge, like what you see in the Colorado mountain line, or in the fucking Alaskan mountain line, or along Glacier Bay and shit like that. And so he's fun little goat buck. Well, they all got real bad worms that year, real bad worms. My neighbor tried to tell me like, oh, my fucking goats died from chiggers. Bro, shut the fuck up, chiggers. What the fuck is wrong with you? So like, in a last ditch effort, Ridge was the last goat of his to end up with a worm load. And this goofy motherfucker, and I am in no way saying that I am on par with a veterinarian. That is not what I'm saying. I would, however, be willing to bet that I am in the ballpark of, not equal to, but in the ballpark of a veterinary technician. I've been a licensed medical professional for 15 fucking years. I've got advanced combat lifesaver. I've got bottom of the top tier SOCOM medical training. So like not quite medic school, but like in that ballpark. Like I haven't exactly told the story full out, but I have mentioned parts of it. But like when I got to the 173rd, my medics found out that I had a medical massage license, which said to them that they inferred that as me understanding medic tent speak, and so they decided that it was going to be me that was going to teach the fucking Unga Bunga infantry boys combat lifesaver, because they didn't want to do it. So I got that job, and so like that propelled me into a certain level of having medical schooling that I didn't exactly want thrust upon me. So with all that said, with some semblance of a fucking medical background and the ability to read the language, I quickly hobbled together a fucking worming protocol for a very dehydrated goat, and over the next 3 days, I almost nursed him back to health. You hear that almost? My homie died, bro. I really like that goat. I got emotionally attached to that goat. It's not even my fucking goat, bro. But I tell you what, anytime you see life fade out of another fucking being's body, bro, that's painful, bro. But I did the best I could for him. Nobody will ever be able to say that. Say I didn't fucking try my best. But it is what it is. You know, you take fucking L's in this game. You want to get in the arena? Sometimes you're gonna bleed. And so, you know, it'd been a long time. I lost 2 goats that same fucking spring. And one of them I really put a lot of effort into not losing. And so, you know, and then I took some L's with the chickens. I learned real quick what coccidia is. Learned how to prevent that. Well, manage away from is probably a better way to phrase that. Like, without vaccines, you can't exactly prevent coccidia, but whatever. I took some L's on the chickens, but chickens, honestly, bro, it's hard to empathize with chickens because chickens don't even empathize with chickens. You know, chickens don't have no fucking, I don't know, whatever that is, compassion, caring. Chickens are definitely leftover dinosaurs, bro. They definitely don't give a single fuck. They ain't got nothing but vestibular fucking nervous system, and there ain't a zero fucking bone of compassion in that fucking thing. Like, there is instinct to propagate the fucking species, right? Like, that's where our biblical reference of like being safe like under a mother hen's wing, you know, because like you'd be surprised some of these chicken ladies how many fucking babies they can fit up underneath them, and you have no fucking idea they even got one under there. And then you lift this bitch up, she's got like 20 fucking chickens under there or some shit, you know, like feathered mice scattering. But you know, I've lost some chickens. I don't really shed no tears over fucking chickens, because you know, I've also had predators kill my chickens, and then my chickens eat that dead chicken down to the fucking bone. So again, like, you know, it's hard to cry over the same fucking spilled milk with that, you know. But I really like my goats, dude. I really like my fucking goats. And my heart's not in sheep. My heart's really not in sheep. But like, I still like sheep more than chickens. So, you know, there's still a higher level of sympathy, empathy, compassion, whatever, for my sheep. So as I gear into telling you the freshest wound, you know. So yesterday, The impetus of responsibility lies on me. I acknowledge that, and I will do better in the future to prevent what pieces I am capable of preventing. I'm only fucking human. I don't walk on gilded splinters, bro. I have shown my ass enough fucking times in this life to know that I am far from fucking perfect. But I do my best, and I always after action review shit, looking for the lesson, looking for how I can improve shit in the future. So, you know, again, the impetus on responsibility lies with me. But what had happened was, yesterday I had 3 massage clients over 90 minutes away from us. We had to get 90 minutes just to get to the fucking clients, service the contract, and then all 3 clients were over 75-minute sessions. So, like, when I say we were on a fucking tight fucking deadline, and this was Sunday morning, you know, this is Sunday after the Waco, Sunday after the Waco fucking powerlifting meet, and we have already set a trend of not recovering well from powerlifting this year. I don't know what that's about. We're still digging into it, if it's our diet, or if it's the diet that the powerlifting's giving us, or if it's our sleep schedule, or what. But like, we are not recovering from the powerlifting meets this year the way that we have in the past, and so that has definitely rolled over into. But when we left for the day, and we were still close enough to turn around and be fucking late to a client, my son let the sheep and the goats out. And my Dorper sheep was in labor. And this is 2 years in a row now that I have lost fucking sheep. Just taking me back. They're going back to the long list. They're getting off the short list. Just taking me back to a reason why, like, you know, I'm starting to not give a fuck how economical the sheep are. They're fucking hard. Like, they're needlessly hard. They're hard in a way that I don't want to adapt to, you know? Like, in deciding the inventory of my farm, you know, there's a certain aspect of, like, I am responsible for caretaking what I am capable of caretaking. You know what I mean? And if you are, like, in denial of your capacities and capabilities, then, like, you're being irresponsible, right? Like, that's just kind of how those are the standards I set for myself, you know? Now, the nice thing is, nice, I don't know, agreeable, I guess. I guess the definition of nice being agreeable, I guess this was the nice thing. This is the silver lining. We got back in time that I did not lose both animals. I did not lose mom and baby, but I lost baby. Now, another thing is, like, I get it. Like, these sheep do everything fucking possible to die. It's another reason I just, like, they're back on my long list, you know? I think humans have just tampered with sheep so much that now they're so fucking, like, they aren't hardy. Like, we've taken away all their natural inclinations and mechanisms that would lean them back towards a hardy fucking livestock. And, like, that seems to be the agreement that people make with sheep. Like, I don't know, I'm generalizing here, but, like, you know who makes good sheep people? Helicopter parents. That's who makes good sheep people. Like, I am very much like a latchkey parent mixed with, like, a fucking rights and responsibilities parent, right? Because I'll barbecue the fuck out of my goats. Keep them out of the fucking feed barn or some shit, you know? A fucking piece of hot wire or fucking electric, an e-collar with a fucking, you know, motion sensor or some shit. But, like, sheep, I don't know, sheep are weird, man. Sheep are kind of nice because, like, you teach them one thing one time, but then sheep are not nice because, like, that's exactly how they expect it every fucking day for the rest of ever, forever. Like, that you can never change their fucking routine. You can never teach them a new route. So that's another thing, you know, why sheep are probably not going to end up on my shit. Because I want to do adaptable grazing. I want to do rotational grazing that is adaptable. I want to do things where, like, you know, what I really appreciate about my goats and my cows is when you take them to a new place, they get all fucking squirrely, and they get all happy, and their tails start going and shit. You take sheep to a new place, and they're very precarious about it. They're like, what is this? Why are we here? And then, like, you lose half a day of grazing just because they're still looking out, like, why'd you bring me to this strange place? Like, shut up, bitch. Just put your head down and eat, motherfucker. So anyways, you know, I got my own qualms with sheep. And so, like, the only part that I hold my son responsible for on this regard is that he saw something strange. He saw, yeah, she looked like she's got a second tail. Like, bro, there's a face coming out of her vagina. Like, that's noteworthy. Like, fucking text me at the minimum. Send out a raven. Jesus Christ, smoke signals. I don't give a fuck. Acknowledge that you saw something strange and then you investigated it. And if it investigates as something negative, you don't have to alert any further. But if you investigate it and it's something that probably is, you know, something that you're not really prepared for, like, call me and I will send the call out to who needs to be called. You know what I mean? But, like, send up the smoke signal. Light the beacons. Gondor will listen. Like, you know, so that's that and so I was upset with my son, and I've already after action reviewed it with him, and then after action reviewed my initial snap, fucking when I snapped at him, you know, while I was fucking elbow deep in a sheep uterus, trying to fucking save mom, because, like, that's what it came down to. Like, I just would have liked to have been notified so that I could have assisted, because I don't like to allow undue stresses on my animals any more than I allow undue stresses on my family, you know. So, you know, because he tells me, like, she's been in labor since he let her out in the morning. So, like, that was huge miscommunication, led to a huge fucking outcome. You know, and that hurts. Just, you know, something, because we've prepped for this shit. But, like, I get it. He's a very young man. So just the aspect of, like, oh, that's weird, maybe I should tell somebody. Like, that was, like, kind of new. Because, like, these fucking kids are soft, bro. And I'm not even just speaking about my son on this. I'm talking about this whole fucking, every piece of generation behind mine. Like, the only reason I'm not soft in that sense is because my mother thrust me into, like, a hard-ass fucking environment and a hard-ass fucking life, you know? But, like, I would have been just as fucking soft as the rest of these motherfuckers if not for my own personal life experience. So, like, I kind of empathize with that. Like, and, you know, I just also am so fucking tired of, like, a lack of responsibility. Like, I get it. It's not your fault. But past a certain point, it becomes your fucking responsibility. Nobody's coming to save us. Eventually, we become the adult. We have to save ourselves. Like, there's no dramatic release. Mommy and daddy are not coming out of thin air to save you when you're fucking 35, when you're 37, when you're 40, when you're 60. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? And so, like, you know, we drill responsibilities, rights and responsibilities all the fucking time. We talk about this shit. And, like, an application moment came up in life and, like, failed the test, you know? And it's one of those, and it was one of those tests where you get 80% of the points just for writing your fucking name on it, just for acknowledging that you showed up to the test. If you fail the test on know-how, you know, we can drill that later. We can always fix but, like, if you don't even show up, why the fuck am I teaching the classes? You know what I mean? So, He was like, well, it's not even my fucking farm. And I was like, that's not the fucking point, bro. Like, if you would show up for our farm, you will show up for your life. If you will show up for your life, you will show up on your wedding day as part of the bride, right? You know what I mean? Starting to see what I'm saying? Starting to see what I'm putting down? Like, in martial arts, we have this idea that you fucking practice how you fight. Like, you should apply that to every fucking foundational principle in your life. If it's a value that you carry forward, you have to fucking apply it. We have to apply it. Now, this is not some half of what I'm saying today is organizing these words within myself, because the sermon is for myself. If any of the rest of you out there can benefit from it, then praise God. But, you know, because the next part of the fuck up did come to me, you know? Like there was a long chain of L's within this one L. You know, this L, once I analyzed it, the receipt is like a fucking CVS receipt. And there's writing all the way to the fucking bottom. You know? And the more you examine that receipt, like, sure, yeah, here at the top of the receipt, my son fucked up. Oh, but what's this? I sponsored my son. Oh shit, I educated my son. Oh fuck, that feels gross. I taught my son communication. Yikes. This receipt is really reading like maybe I'm the fuck up here. Which is true, that is the truth. I'm gonna try and stay on that. And so, you know, analyze the whole fucking thing. Now, I will say, this is definitely a bittersweet symphony of love. No, this was definitely a bittersweet fucking lesson, though. And I'm so glad that 11 years ago, I read an Art of Manliness podcast called The Art of the Reframe, where he quoted Talib Kweli and the book Anti-Fragile, Becoming More Than Sissy Resilience or whatever the fuck. And I've been practicing that now for those 11 years, and I've found the ability to reframe a little bit quicker, because this is a practice that I'm only starting to master. I've been a fuck up my whole life. I've been homeless 3 times before running a farm, you know. But like Darren Hardy, the compound effect, right? Keep doing something, and it'll keep compounding until eventually you've got something to show for it, you know. Yeah, my fuck ups are a little bigger now, but so are my fruits. So, you know, they'll be in direct proportion of each other. That's Pareto distribution. Because I will say this, though. That experience last night, there was at least one W. There was at least one fucking W in the win column. You know, and that W was my wife. Women are so fucking strong, yo. You know, on paper, I'm better than my wife at emergency situations. On paper. Right? On paper, I have done combat lifesaver. I've done advanced combat lifesaver. I've done jump school. I've jumped out of fucking 25 more fucking jumps after jump school. I have done land nav and gotten lost on a fucking land navigation course. I've recovered after a stroke. That was my 3rd heat casualty. I had to teach this left side of my face how to smile again. You know? I didn't know my full fucking name for a week and a half. And the only part of my Social Security I remembered was the last fucking 4. And when I woke up in the German hospital, in the fucking med tent at Expert Infantryman's badge, the first question I asked was, why are men in ACUs treating me? You know what's funny about that? I didn't know what the fucking ACU was, but I knew to ask that question. You know what I mean? My brain was fucking fried. And I've recovered from that. Men are pretty strong. We can be pretty strong. But women, bro, my wife doesn't have any fucking formal training. My wife's got 2 babies she's been through in life. But like, you know, kind of hard to see the picture when you're in the frame on that one, you know. She wasn't pulling them out of nobody, you know. But this woman, man, God bless her, like, she went right to work. Once I got the gloves up, bro, and I got the lights set up, and we were about to help this fucking sheep, bro. I got in position, and there was a fucking face coming out of a vagina, and I went, duh. And my wife, man, she didn't miss a beat. She was like, go get the lube, go get the fucking triple V antibacterial, go get me 2 towels and some hot water. I was like, yes, ma'am. You know? Thank God for her. You know? And so, you know? But like everything that possibly could have gone wrong, went wrong. You know? That's another reason I'm trying not to be too hard on myself. I'm being critical of myself, but I'm not trying to... The bitter medicine is hard enough, you know. I don't need to beat the shit out of myself, too. I don't need to flog myself with you're such a fucking failure and you're so fucking stupid and all that goddamn negative-ass self-talk that's only going to keep me in a low fucking vibration. I got to get up, elevated to a new perspective so that maybe my higher self can help my child self understand the path forward. You know what I mean? So, because, like, we were so, I don't know, underslept, under whatever the fuck, that we forgot to check the animals before we left, right? And then Dax forgot to fucking communicate to us that anything was fucking weird. And then on the way home, fucking blankety blank police department needed their fucking public engagements for the month. So, you know, they needed to pull us over to tell my wife that one of her fucking headlights was out. And somehow that routine ass fucking stop cost us almost an hour of return home time. Like it was only like a 15 or 20 minute stop, but it somehow cost us an hour. Like we were supposed to be home at 7:30, we got home at 8:30. Like whatever the fuck. On the note of compounding effect, you know. Somehow that, 20 minutes of drive time is an hour of arrive time, like whatever. And so we got pulled over for a headlight being out. And then what's fucked up about that is, like, we hit one of the bumps coming back into our shitty ass our little cul-de-sac, right? There's like shitty, is it county, is it city road? So everybody argues over and it never gets fucking paved. And there's a bump, and we hit that fucking bump, and the goddamn headlight came back on. Yeah, so, and then we got home late. It was dark. It took me a minute to even alert to the fact that the sheep had been fucking in labor all goddamn day. And then, and then baby was big as fuck, and he was breech, bro. So apparently, in my research after the fact, trying to figure out what the fuck went wrong, getting into some vet school textbooks and shit, and asking my actual vet, who's a client of mine, we're clients of each other, I guess, checked in with her, like, hey, how the fuck was this supposed to go? Because it definitely didn't fucking go the way it was supposed to. And she's an Army major, so, we speak the same fucking grunt language. So we can have a very quick shorthand as when she denotes in my voice that it is crisis mode. you know. And we were both airborne too, so we're both fucking high speed. You know, I told her how we found the baby, how it went. She told me how it was supposed to go, and I was like, well, there's a problem right there. So what we think has happened was this was this sheep's first lamb, and it went over term and got really big. This sheep was born with all its fucking teeth, etc. Like, so this motherfucker, this big ass bastard went fucking over term. Then we don't know what the fuck, because she was tiny, and Dorpers are supposed to have low birth weights, and the ram we bred her to was small, so we don't know what the fuck she pulled off the Dorper line, but this motherfucker was half her size. This was like the biggest fucking baby, bro. Not okay. And he tried to come out face first, so they're supposed to apparently come out fucking hands first, like they're diving. And this motherfucker came out like face and hands, right? And so, you know, if somebody had been there early in the day while she was still contracting, because like that was the other thing, she had gone into labor for so long, you know, she was uncontracting. You know? So again, praise God we didn't fucking lose mama too, but fuck, man. Like, this is why we chose fucking Wagyu Longhorn crosses. Because Wagyu already have, like, zero problem calving. And Longhorn have absolutely zero fucking problems calving. So, you know, that's exactly what we wanted from our cows. And then in our goats, in the Nige goats, they don't have no fucking problems that I can find in the literature, that I've found from any of my YouTube university fucking mentorships. You know, they do all right. They do all right. You know, sheep were the only thing on the docket where it was like, this might be kind of a problem. Well, yeah, now after fucking 2 years in a row of seeing zero return on investment, like, yeah, they're a colossal fucking problem. So maybe they're beyond me, or maybe it really is simply the fact that my heart just aren't in the sheep. Like, I just don't want to do fucking sheep. In that kind of regard, you know. Which I'm gonna meditate on that. That's still in rough draft mode. I'm still reiterating it, writing drafts on that, on exactly what I'm supposed to learn in that regard. You know, because it's okay to simplify. It's okay to simplify. And now she's been bred once, so she'll be a decent commodity if we can get her to some sheep people for real, like real sheep people. Like, I don't know, maybe that's what we'll do. We'll trade her plus the other two back to the folks that gave us the other two originally, because they were really just doing that because they needed to downsize a couple years ago, so maybe they're back in a place. And I don't know, maybe we sell them back to them, and then we use that money to buy some more goat does. Or maybe we sell them to somebody else and they can process them, because, you know, fucking Easter's coming up and folks like to eat lamb or whatever. Well, folks like to eat sheep or whatever. I don't know. I'm kind of getting into the weeds on that now. Get kind of rambling. I think for the most part I've delivered on the meat and potatoes of what I didn't want to talk about, but felt was important that I did. You know, I've never assumed, never once, that I fucking am the end-all be-all on what I fucking do and don't know. If anything, I assumed that I don't know shit, even with what I just read. And I read it fucking again. So, you know, this has certainly been a hard lesson on fucking what I still have to learn. You know, but they happen. They happen, and this is why I stay resilient. This is why I stay fucking physical. This is why I stay doing these fucking walks, you know? You gotta walk it off, you know? That's that fucking youth football mentality, right? You go head to head with a kid bigger than you. You end up with a fucking neck and shoulder stinger. You can't feel your fucking hands for 2-3 minutes. And you can't tackle nobody correctly now. Your coach will tell you, walk it off, bro. Go stand up tall. Go stand up tall, shoulders back. Find your proper alignment. Walk it off. Come back when you can feel your fucking shoulder again. When you have confidence in your full being again. So, you know, we got to stay resilient. We got to keep it moving. We got to stay fit spiritually, physically, emotionally. Because, like, you never know when the fucking hardship's coming, bro. We were coming home from a decent day's work. You know? $400 or $500 day. After a fucking $300 fucking powerlifting day. And, you know, we thought we were going to get a nice, easy fucking Monday to recover, and life was like, nah, bitch, caught you sleeping, blah. So, you know, that's how it goes sometimes. But, you know, I chose to play the game. I chose to play the game. And in this motherfucking game, sometimes you get dirty. Sometimes you bleed. And you just got to deal with that if you want to play the game. So, I really appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope for some of you this was entertaining. I hope for the rest of you this was instructive. But no matter what, I want y'all to stay blessed.